Greetings, this is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is a very brief ad thingy. Yes, Fanime Con 2018 is going to happen. I'm going to be there. Well, 4 days, we're going to be there. First, to go to Han Solo, a Star Wars spin-off, and then go to the convention. So that's what I will do, that, and then the convention. Yeah, so everything is all set, and Mark's cards will be here tomorrow. He's not going to the convention, but he'll be here tomorrow. I'm not sure if we'll have any footage of, maybe a brief snippet of him for a few minutes. Anyway, so yeah. As I said on one of the other blogs, don't expect anything more about Channel Awesome. I don't know anything more. Or why the SAP production stuff. I don't know anything more about that either. Why that has ended several years ago. Before that, yeah. So we will see you at the convention. Yeah. Greetings, this is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster. You're watching the show for tonight. So here we have, only because tonight is very long. Suffice it to say, I guess this little brief thing will be stuff that happened that is not on the slideshow. So this little snippet will be in there. There was a bus ride going there where there was a schizophrenic, insane lady on the bus with black hair who was. She asked what time it was, but then she started twitching and like doing signs, but she wasn't doing signs. She was just twitching randomly, her like nervous tics, but like really jarring ones. Anyway, so yeah, that was weird. There was also at one of the near the burrito place, the Burritozilla, which I didn't go into. There was a couple of scantily clad costumed people, one of which was a heavy-set lady, Rubenesque lady, who didn't care that she was spilling out of her costume. Empowerment. She didn't care. And her girlfriend didn't care either. She also was spilling out of hers, so sure. Why not? Anyway, so yes. Anyway, you could tell where all the giblets were and so forth. The happy flappies, BC Cap. I don't think it was meant for dudes though, because I don't think she was into that. She was into her friend, a chick. There were plenty of very effeminate dudes there, and there were plenty of. Then that was fine. Nobody was. I remember a couple of years ago, the Republicans were freaking out over the men are going to be perverts and go in the wrong bathroom and say their gender like they're women. They think they're women, but they're men. That doesn't happen anymore at all. It didn't really happen then too much at all. It was mostly like people went in the wrong room or something. Yeah, the hyper-conservatives were concerned that men would be creepers, and even though they weren't really worried about that, they were just be discriminating against people. They weren't really worried about that. They wanted their own creepering to happen, so that they were being weird about that because the senators and election people. Yeah, that did not happen this time at all. All the men stayed in the men's bathroom. I don't know, maybe some men went in the women's. I don't know. I didn't go in the women's. There was nobody pretending so they could get a peek at a guy's dick. That was not happening. So, anyway, so nothing like that happened. Different things that were going on. Okay, Fanime Con. I'm going to go into Fanime Con Friday. Yeah, this time Friday's events and festivities were far more kinetic and lively, and got to show the opening of the whole thing, all the way. And didn't show opening ceremonies really. Caught them very briefly because I think when the ceremonies happened, I was doing something else. But yeah, but people were already milling about before that. There was really no line con because if you prepaid and you went through the internet sign-in scan thing, yeah, there was like 4 people in line at the beginning. Pays to come in the first day. I'm sure tomorrow it will be insane. Line con. Now, unlike the Comic Con, Silicon Valley, which has a lot of main guest star people from all over the place, from Hollywood and TV and stuff like that. You get Hollywood movies and Hollywood television. You get a lot of anime people. The panels that were allegedly going to happen in the hotel Fairmont weren't happening in the hotel the Fairmont, which is why you would see footage of that on the thing. You'll be like, where is everybody? Because there's nobody there. They were, however, showing some movie screenings, which I will check out tomorrow. Mostly go to screenings and watch like previews and things like that because that's cool. Movie screenings. So I do a couple of those. I'll do other things like that. But anyway, today they were screening a couple of anime movies. Giant Robo was one of them. I didn't go and watch that. Although, yeah, you'd think I would watch that, but I caught the tail end of it, so I didn't. I understand that one of the Robotech people from Harmony Gold is wandering around there somewhere. Also, didn't see him though. The two groupie band things was going on. There was, yeah, there was some entertainment going on upstairs as well. At one point, there's bands and stuff. I'm assuming they're going to be there on Saturday and Sunday, and that they will be much more animated. It'll be all rocking music going on in the background, J-pop and K-pop, Japanese and Korean pop music. From the videos that I scanned through on there, at first it doesn't look like there's anyone there in some of those scenes, but that's mainly because in those particular areas it hadn't filled up with people yet, or they came in masses and then would go out. So actually, by the time of the opening of the thing, there was the opening of the dealer's room. There was a crowd of hundreds of people, maybe upwards of 200, 300 people, all wanting to like just go en masse into that dealer's room, fill it up, looking for stuff. And nobody was buying stuff yet because they literally just opened the doors, but they all went in. And, yeah, that was interesting. The dealer's room is interesting. It has lots of stuff, bizarre stuff. A lot of these little cutesy things. Guess that's the thing. There were a lot of the costumes were emulating a cat girl or a lamb girl or some sort of anthropomorphic animal with like light platinum hair, and a lot of people were that. Not so many. There were some Sailor Moon, but not very many of them. It's mainly the other characters. There's some other, because that schoolgirl uniform of the Sailor Moon is kind of a thing with a lot of anime. So it could have been anyway. I recognized that some of it was of the some of the more odd ones, strange ones with the sort of horror themed There's a spoof one about. There's a spoofy one that's about a killer assassin high school. That's one of the things that a lot of them were dressed up as. Yeah, so they were doing that, or they were doing Death Note or something like that. So there. I looked up some of the stuff that was going on that they were dressed up as beforehand, but not all of it. Well, this year's gaming is the theme, so the game room was larger than usual, and there was a lot of activity in there, including some Dance Revolution stuff and some VR stuff and kind of fun things to look at and observe people acting crazy at the games. That was before the dealer's room was open. The game room was opened earlier. There was, yeah, it was cool. So there was a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, I'm not too into the gaming, so I don't know what I'm really looking at. But yeah, and even though Starship Locations is supposed to be a game, it didn't have really that yet. It's mostly short stories that are just and novels, things. It's not really a game, not really scripts, I guess. Anyways, so I did show the hotel room stuff, the upstairs. I did not show the haunted escalators that were breaking down, including one that stopped. They're making a horrible noise. The escalators like clank, 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 clank. Maybe somebody was like buried inside it or something. At the hotel, the La Ferma. Of course, the bakery was in there, and actually they were kind of ignoring the tickets you take out. It wasn't very busy. There were other people over there, and I think I mentioned on one of the other little snippets that there were many empowered people that did not care that they were in costume, and many of them did not care that they were scantily naked. They were not expecting to be exploited. They were just enjoying running around. Like, they just didn't mind doing that. That's cool. And also there were a couple of people in drag, but they were not in the. They were not being creepers. They don't really do that, despite the hyper Republicans going on about that years ago, and despite about one or two people outside the place doing the whole righteous thing, like costuming is evil. Oh. There was some of that, but not as much. No, it's not evil. There's nothing in the Bible about wearing a costume. It was a gloomy day outside, so it was kind of like that. But yeah, yeah, it's just what it is. It was Fanime. I will be going to more things. I figured out what the panels are. That's good. Many of them just weren't open yet. The ones that were anime guys from current stuff that I have no idea what it is. So, at least last year they had a Sailor Moon panel, and I was familiar with the first couple seasons of that show, so seeing what they were doing now made sense. It's like, okay, we'll see what they're doing now. Right, yeah. I don't know what happened with that after that. That's back in the 80s. Everybody watched that show in the 80s. Everybody. But yeah, early 90s. But yeah, it was one of those staple shows after Gem and the Holograms that was geared toward the girls audience, so that was kind of a cool thing. You had this like superhero girls. It's like Wonder Woman type of deal, but with magic girls. The idea of that was kind of fun. I guess they still do that in some form or another. Fun for them, yeah. You don't often see that. You know what else was funny though is is there's at least 3 panels on hentai. If you don't know what hentai is a form of Japanese animation, and it can also be it also can be in book form. Hentai and henkai, not henkai, but hentai, and henkai is just a character. Hentai is adult themed animation. Of course, that's actually mentioned there. Apparently, the adult themed panels were later in the day. I didn't go to them, but maybe there will be one tomorrow. Don't look that up. Incidentally, yeah, unless you're not squeamish, you can look it up. Rule 34 is alive and well over there at the convention. So yes, that's I guess the recap of Friday. That isn't from the slideshow. To include that I didn't go to. Oh yes, and do find on YouTube, because I didn't film it. I couldn't film myself doing it. Kal Kat doing old school breakdancing, including the butt spin with the twirling around and the C, the break, and the backward robot and all that. There is footage of me acting insane on the floor in front of like a bunch of teenagers who brought a boombox and turned it on. They weren't some of the they weren't the official Yakuzi and Aike and the other two. I'm probably saying their names wrong. They weren't the official bands because their buddies kept looking around and going, like, "We're gonna get kicked out if we do this because they're gonna kick us out because we're not supposed to do that." So like yeah, but yeah. So they were doing this like on the floor in the first floor of the convention center, and they weren't supposed to. They did it anyway. So yeah, so people joined in and they did like a dance fighting dance off thing. And of course, Kitty Key, the martial sportist, and of course me as well, were martial artists at one point for several years. So Tai Chi forms and dance forms and Japanese animation dance forms are very similar. So sure, I just kind of knew moves that I used to know from years ago and used to show the dancing and moves. And I must introduce them to all the old school stuff like the moonwalk and the centipede and the spin. And they did some of the spinning. These young guys, it looked like they were like 15 or something. They were going on. They probably were older because they're Asian. They looked younger, but they weren't too much older than that. And two of them were really, really good at dancing. So yeah, they're that good at that young. They're going to be really, really good later on, or really arthritic. My age. By the time you get to my age, they'll be like, I can't move. But yes, the moonwalk and the robot. They were doing the robot a lot. It's like the robot's still around. That's awesome. And I'm sure there were some people that were my age that were all, oh, he's doing like old like MC Hammer and Michael Jackson. Yeah, pretty much. A little bit of MC Hammer. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson! Yeah. Anyway, Snoochie Boochies. So yes, this is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and we're watching Fanime Day 2. I've really got no behind the scenes stuff except that because the slideshow's kind of long, so it's almost as long as the last one. So I'm going to jump into that. But so I used to say the place that had the action figures that were unboxed actually had crappy action figures, and they all had pieces missing. And they didn't appreciate me noticing that they had pieces missing. Well, it's like, I didn't want them if they didn't have pieces missing. Come on. Also, this father and this kid were like looking at them, and he didn't want it either because there were pieces missing. So I was like, if you're not going to buy anything, leave. It's like, well, nobody's going to buy your crap because it sucks. But no, there was a couple of better toy vendors that were just fine, but a little pricey. Didn't go over there, and I did get a pair of cat ears. I always wanted a pair of cat ears, and I'll probably get a tail tomorrow. I have a black cat tail, but I think one that matches my hair would work better. Doesn't make me a furry. It makes me a furry's friend. Because you'd have to have a suit. Furry friendly. That's like LGBT friendly, but furry friendly. Yeah. The Kal Kat show is LGBT friendly. And yeah, there was a panel on that kind of thing. There were some other ones. I think it's mentioned on there. But yeah. And then ironically, there was a Lolita fashion show that I did not attend. Yeah, because, no. Yeah, different forms of issues that we're just not going to go down that bunny trail. Anyway, so yeah, it had nothing to do with a 70s movie. Anyway, so we're going to play the footage now, and that's all I've got. Behind the scenes. I went to backyard and that kind of. That's really all I got. Anyway, so yeah, there's no behind the scenes. Just this is going to be, I guess, thrown on the beginning of the thing. So let's do the slideshow. Okay, this is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is just I'm going to do a reshoot of that little recap thing that. Yeah, there were a couple of stories here on this particular thing that I thought to address the bunny trail. It's okay. First thing is first. The show and the channel do not advocate any sort of underage, gross stuff, sexual stuff at all. This Lolita thing was not the 70s movie, which or 90s prequel. If you're familiar with that, they probably shouldn't be. But if you're familiar with that, it was a art housey sort of movie and follow-up thing, very similar to the later Tracy Lord's story. She was a porn actress who was underage that pretended to be old enough to get into porn. So this movie is sort of kind of the same idea. This person that's not old enough gets into porn. It's similar to a film called Hardcore. It's similar to 13 a little bit. It's another one. Similar to Kids a little bit. In the premise. All of the actors in these other films were presumably not actually involved in any horrible experiences, but rather were actors, and it was it's just acting. But things like that could happen. Human trafficking does happen. Don't do that. That's bad. So the point was that when they were talking about the slash fiction stuff as well, one of the guys in the audience brought up the Harry Potter stuff again from last year. Probably the same guy, and she doesn't like the slash fiction lady didn't like the Harry Potter stuff because, well, they're underage in Harry Potter. If you're writing, even if you were underage when you wrote it, as she mentioned, she wrote some slash fiction. She was underage. Then it's still bad to do that because you're underage. So don't do that. Don't publish it. Don't do that. Yeah. When back in the day when the slash fiction stuff was available in publishing in the beginning of all that Reddit thing, there was a Transformers site that did a lot of stuff like that too. There was slash and there was non-slash and there was Transformers fanfic. Well, slash fiction of robots is different, of course, because they're not of any age. They're robots. And I saved some of that stuff, and I found it years since, and I told the lady about it afterward. I said, I have some old Transformers.com stuff, and I have some old slash fiction, Star Trek slash fiction. Oh, goody, put it up on the site. Yeah, well, I could put the Star Trek stuff up, but I won't put my name on it. So that's not going to happen. And no, they're all age. They're all of age. They're all over 18 on that. And the writer was over 18. Presumably. Yeah, yeah. There's some slash stuff, Star Trek stuff. Paired Picard and LaForge. I paired Garrick and Bashir. And I paired Q and Picard. I paired a bunch of people. Kira and Kai Wynn. And I paired. Oh, that's weird. I paired like who else got paired up? Yar and the Lizard. That was Mark's cards. And the other stuff. Yeah, Yar. That was an old one. Yeah. That one was written when we were not old enough, so I definitely cannot release that one. Can't have that one. Nope, can't do that. Just not gonna put them on any Usenet thing. Not gonna. They do exist, but you're not gonna see them on the Kal Kat show at all. It's not gonna happen. The Transformer stuff though is PG-13 enough that some of it has appeared, and there's been that Robotech thing that I did a little back was definitely slashy and had Rick Hunter. Edwards was kind of obsessed with him, so yeah, there was a little slashy stuff going on there because that was a story. Was loosely based on an earlier thing that was in one of those episodes. There was no byline on that one from the slash fiction. I just mentioned from, inspired by the alt fiction because it was kind of a general thing about Robotech. I didn't want to really do. There wasn't enough of that story left for it to be considered. Oh, given a byline. Nope. It's a Kal Kat and Cowpoke and someone else. Werewolf Fuzzy Face. Yes, that's it. And there was, I didn't mention it this time, but last time when they did the Slash panel, that's what the Slash is, fanzines, Slash zines. And that I mentioned last time CM, who I actually knew. I knew the person that did the TNG Slash fiction. Yep. I know who that is. I don't know about the table and all that, yeah. We're not going to reveal who that is, but I know who that is. Say, no, I'm not going to, no, I'm not going to give you any of my stuff. but yeah, so that's my little rant about slash fiction. I don't mind slash fiction as long as it's, within the context and you have your story and pairings. And as I was saying, there was somebody there that group in there, and the group in there, she was disgusted that some of us were there. I was there, and some other people were there. I wasn't the only one. She was like turning around and going like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing?" She's like looking at different people, but it's like, what? It's just, to which I said, at the time, well, what are you doing in here? I think it's horrible that I'm in here. Then what about you? It's like you're listening to a Slash panel. It's about shipping fiction of Xena and Callista having sex, and to which I said to the person next to me, weren't they married? It never occurred to me they weren't. They just didn't say it. Weren't they married? I thought they were like an item. And they were always in bed together and stuff. They just couldn't talk about it. Well, of course there was a little too much amusement on that part. But yes, I was a little too amused by it. Yes, it doesn't arouse me. It just makes me laugh. A lot of it. I mean, it's just probably not supposed to, but it totally does. I mean, Quark and Odo. I mean, what? Garrick and Bashir. I mean, come on. That kind of thing. CM and the others like that. Yeah. Those stories are safe and sound somewhere out there. If they reappeared, if CM reposted them somewhere, then I will read them again. But I won't. But yeah, they've started a Slash ring. So yeah, and they mentioned Steven Universe, of which is already Slash. Yeah, as long as the pairings are 18 and up, so that's fine. Yeah, so that's my Slash ring rant. Because I felt like I should explain what this other stuff was about. So the Lolita. I didn't go to it. It was a costume dance thing. Apparently, although I did look into the title afterward, and apparently they are sort of borrowing the idea of that. Specifically the idea of schoolgirl-like person, but she's really an adult, and she's going to do a fashion show thing. So in that sense, they are borrowing from the movie. Except the movie was not cool. You don't want to watch it. Even though it was fake, you still don't want to watch it. But yeah, but the fashion show I'm sure was fine, and I'm sure there was nobody arrested. Oh, there are cops here? Oh, no. Although what was funny is, oh yeah, this is behind the scenes stuff, right? So playing the thing. Oh yeah, I'll add some more stuff that's not about Slash or anything. I was on the train going back, and there was a kind of crazy lady who got on, and she was nervously skewering an apple. She had this apple, so there was an apple scene, but she wasn't tossing it. She was skewering it with a pen, just a regular ballpoint pen with a blue cap, and she like took the cap off and stuffed the core of the apple. She'd bitten off part of it, ran it through the core, and then began to eat it. It's really bizarre. I gotta put that in a story. Lady who takes a teacher apple and pen, puts it in there, starts eating it. Is it Shelley Scott from Pine Hill? She'd be like, yes. No, it wasn't. But that'd be funny. Be like, oh, yeah, I went to high school. The San Jose, it could have been, but probably wasn't. Anyway, there were these three slovenly-looking dudes. One guy had a bike, and they were rocker dudes. They were rockers, stoners, basically. You know, Angie types, from the Pine Hill types. You know, I mean, one of them could have been anybody from the original cast, but wasn't. Not at all. The three of them were going off about like all sorts of stuff. I had a black hoodie on, and they had the blue pants, and it kind of looked vaguely like some sort of service person. I wasn't trying to. It was some spaceman, a space outfit, not a service thing. No, Fanime. It's a costume. It's not real. They began talking louder and louder about how they had weapons and guns and stuff. I thought it was rather odd that they're doing that on a train, and figured out later, as that's a bus stop later on, that they were probably trying to get my attention because they probably thought I was some sort of security guy. I was not. So, if they were, that's kind of stupid, because if I was some security person, it would have been like, okay, you're kind of like making a scene on the train. I wouldn't have denied them their right to talk about guns, and weapons and stuff on a train, but I'm not a serviceman, so. But it was like, what people think, like, I guess the costume looked like uniformly enough, but it's a space thing. It's not anything. It's a space hero kind of thing. Anyway, so there's my little other thing. Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah. Why is it that with gun-toting guys, and they've encountered this before, or they didn't have guns, but why is it with people that love guns and stuff feel that everyone else should hear about how they love guns and their gun rights and their Second Amendment rights, which states the right to bear arms to form a militia in the event of armed rebellion, which does not mean you have the right to have super duper military style assault weapons. It means you have the right to have a weapon that can defend you in the event of an armed rebellion. It doesn't mean you can have every weapon imaginable and stockpile an army worth of weapons. It means you can have as many as you for that, for an armed rebellion. Yeah. Well, they only read the first part of that, and not the rest. They just anyway. But yeah, they were going on about. I was not interrupting them. I wasn't talking to them. I didn't know who they were. They were talking about rockers and stuff before that, and But it was odd that they were ranting. Maybe they were just soapboxing about their own military beliefs, I guess, or something. It's always funny and you can tell that they actually didn't do any military time, because the way they were going on about drugs and pot and other stuff too, they would have been 4F immediately and kicked out for dishonorable discharge. Yeah, you didn't serve any military time, I don't think. Nope. Sure enough. Didn't either, but yeah, it's funny that when the more they talk about drugs, the more paranoid they also seem on the train. Yeah, because they get paranoid. And they think people are looking at us funny or whatever. It's like this because you're making a scene on the train, acting like a moron. It's like that's why. And you can just talk about it amongst yourselves. But I want to talk about armor-piercing rounds and 40 caliber guns and special bullets and shit. And it's like, okay, but you're gonna, if there was security on the train, they'd probably ask you to get off. Not because it would be against your gun rights, but because you're making a scene on the train. Yeah, yeah, they're not taking your rights away. They're saying you're making a scene. Nobody told them to get off the train. So. Oh yeah, and another thing on that train, to way back when I got on the train with a bunch of dudes, a couple of Asian guys, an Indian guy, and I got on a train, and the back of the car, the front of the car stank, like shit, like there was like poo somewhere under a seat, the first part of the train. Like maybe like somebody had dog poop on their shoe or something. Smelled like dookie. It's nasty. And then later on, those three guys, they didn't stink, but they moved. We all moved, and they moved. And then figured out what it was. Somebody had left a diaper on the train. It was like down near the conductor guy. He got off. He found it. The other guy's like, oh God, oh. And then they removed it from the train. So it wasn't on there for the rest of the trip. It's like, the conductor opened the door. He's like, what is that? Gross. Somebody left a stink bomb, a payday. What is it called when it's a diaper, though? Is that technically a payday? It's an unflushed turd, but it's different. It's like in a diaper bag. I guess that's called like a Cleveland steamer or something. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, oh Baltimore for some reason, because that was mentioned in A Dirty Shame, of which they were all 18 and older. Anyway, so that's my little train rant, I guess. Yeah. So this is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is the cat. This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster. This is in Captain Kirk outfit. This is day 3 of Fanime recap, behind the scenes. Fanime Con, the convention desperately needed, thus far, or 3 days in, desperately needed somebody like the Nostalgia Critic and Channel Awesome. That was mentioned on there. But yeah, they needed somebody like Angry Video Game Nerd or Angry Joe or Nerd Cubed or something like that. I'm sure it's... Yeah. And they didn't get it. They had everyone else. They got a lot of animators from Japanese anime, and that's fine. But and gaming, it's fine. But they needed some personalities from the web, other web personalities that they didn't really have. Probably due to the Channel Awesome debacle weeks earlier. Maybe they were planning on going. They didn't. Yeah, and that doesn't mean it wouldn't eventually appear on there anyway. But we have not made any plans. Yeah, so is there anything pressing to talk about in the behind the scenes? There was a political panel which was about a dystopia, utopia, and dystopia being unknown or unseen, literally. It's dystopia and utopia. Yeah, the impossible, unknown, and unseen. The Jacob's ladder. Not Jacob's ladder. Occam's razor. The idea of dystopia kind of not working. a utopia where someone's in charge as a dictator is going to fail. It's not going to survive. That was the point of one of the things there. No one has invented a perfect form of government. The closest thing to it would be a republican democracy oligarchy with a benevolent dictator, which don't really have, although President 45 thinks he's in one. Yeah, Fanime. So Fanime, the lady was going on about that. Politics in there. Apparently she was a poli-sci major at heart, although she technically wasn't. She was some kind of sociology and like art, writing major. Like I was an English major, literature and stuff. Yeah, so she knew literature and stuff, and yeah, she was equating. It was a panel. She was equating some of the Ayn Rand stuff, the Atlas Shrugged, to the characters in a story called. I thought it was Biohazard. It was Biohazard was Bioshock, so it was not actually Resident Evil. It was something else. Although it had a lot of those themes, the theme of dystopia, but without the zombies. There were actually killer people in it. Didn't have zombies. But sure, learned something different about other video games. That's good. But yeah, the politically charged debate could be a bunny trail that we won't go on. Yesterday I was talking about the Lolita bunny trail. And there's a little more to that than meets the eye there, Transformer. In that the animators that are using that word know very well that terminology in the US market and the European market does have a sexual connotation. They know that movie. They're familiar with it. So the animators are actually just making a play on words to get people to buy the product. Okay, I was. Let me backtrack a little. When I was talking about the term Lolita, the people that are doing the animation thing, it's not an animation, a manga thing, and a cosplay thing, they know full well of the movie and the connotations and the whole thing. They know what they're implying. Now, they're not saying they're doing anything bad, but they know what they're implying from calling it that. It's about schoolgirls with scantily clad outfits on. That's what the movie's about, except in the movie, it's prostitution. Gross. But in the anime story, the Lolita panel or whatever it was, costume show, it was not. So the costume show was not, but the implication is that it was. So, anyway, so child friend, yeah, gross. Pedos, yeah, pedos. Pedo bears, not pedo bear. Actually, pedo bear was a made-up meme that led to people thinking it was real and it wasn't. So that's kind of the same thing here, but in reverse. They want the infamy of the title without the infamy of what it actually is. It would be like if they call it like sex sluts or something, or slave girls or something, which would have a connotation of like, ew, don't want to do this, but without saying actually, no slavery. Anyway, so yeah, back to the other story. Oops. And the misogynists would love that. But back to there's really not much more in there. And I could see that feminist political lady going on about the other thing being wrong. I could see her doing that. Yeah, like arguing with the hentai lady and the other. There was a panel about messed up people at cons acting weird in line. That was put on. Well, that was like the panel, yeah. So messed up people. Socially awkward people go to cons because they feel comfortable going to cons with other socially awkward people. costuming people, so it's like, well, that's not really an issue. I don't think. I mean, they're gonna be weird in line. It's like when I was at Fanime last year, and somebody made a disparaging sex comment to some lady because he didn't like her in line, mouthing off to him, and it was like, yeah, he's never gonna get any, you know. But it's like, and then other people are gonna go in the wrong line or whatever, like they talked about, and then fuss about it. But for the most part, people don't act like idiots. Although the Campus Crusade people did get kicked off the campus again, off of the Fanime today. They were over in the park. Apparently somebody threw a rock. One of them did. That's kind of ironic considering those cast the first stone. Those without sin. Those who are with Jesus said, those without sin cast the first stone. Apparently somebody did. Nobody there is without sin, so they can't cast a stone. So they were kicked out. Again. Apparently one year there was a guy dressed as Jesus that came out and chased them. I saw that at least one time that happened. I also saw a guy in a devil costume and a guy in a Jesus costume, and they both ran out. It's pretty funny. So I was there for one of those. The guy was thinking, well, somebody misremembered a 2008 one, but it might have happened both. But it did happen when I was there in 2013, 2014. It was funny. So it happened twice. I didn't get footage of that, but got footage of the one from 2016. I'm out on the street corner. They were about a block and a half away at the hotel doing it. At which point I pointed out that Jesus said nothing about the gays, and then he turned around and left. Come back that way. He was like flustered. The Campus Crusade guy, yes. Needless to say, the guy saw me coming and wanted to take off again. But yeah, and there were people, there was a Campus Crusader guy at our church that was in the coffee shop complaining about the costume people. He's apparently one of them. So, ironically, another one of those Crusaders was in the hentai panel, and she was like sitting in there, kept turning around going, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Like, not that she was paranoid that I was there, she was grossed out that I was at that I was at the Star Trek / panel. Which is like, that's my business what business of hers is it that I'm at a / panel with that? It's like weird. That was one of my con stories. I mentioned the / panel lady. They didn't say who it was. Just a person was disgusted that it was there. Didn't say that I kind of knew of her, but yeah, funny. It's like, I don't know. My response was hilarious. I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" She didn't say anything after that. It's like, okay, so if I'm not supposed to be at the panel, then what about you? I did point out to the current, some of the people walking across the street from the park where the Crusaders were, that it's not adultery or idolatry. I don't know why he keeps saying adultery over there. If he means idolatry, the only way that would work is if you were making false god idols. And I could see like somebody confusing some of that for idolatry, but it isn't really what they meant. Because in the Old Testament, idolatry, what that meant was literally making a golden calf or some other idol or an Asherah pole or something to worship that, or making like a little altar to other gods. Costuming is not a god. Are they saying that like if somebody dresses like Thor, it's a made up version of a Norse god? Oh my gosh, oh, you're idolatry, you're worshipping Thor. No. What? This will be worshipping Captain Kirk, he'd like that. No, of course not. Also the premise in some of the circles they were throwing out there was that, yeah, stuff that I've never quite gotten right is people getting personally offended when you don't like their shit. I find that amusing because you're not saying you don't like them, you're saying that you don't like the stuff they watch. That's your opinion. That doesn't make them better or worse. That's your opinion. If you say, oh, I don't like Walking Dead, that doesn't mean that means the other person is stupid. That means they don't like the show. It's different. I don't like the show or whatever. I don't like Game of Thrones. I've never watched it. That doesn't mean people that watch it are automatically dumb. That doesn't mean that at all. It means the show has elements that I do not like for whatever reason. Along the same vein, if they say, oh, some of Star Trek is stupid, I wouldn't be offended. I would say, yes, there are some episodes of Star Trek that are stupid. I would agree with them and say, yeah, Spock's brain is code of honor. Some of those episodes were really dumb. But yeah, the whole show is not stupid. But I'm not going to be personally offended. I don't work for Star Trek. I'll say, well, okay. Got a little offended at the Channel Awesome thing. But anyways, hypocrite. Yeah. But yeah, I don't even work for them. But yeah, we're all guilty of hypocrisy. And yeah, so it's my little rant. To say that any one person is necessarily right or wrong is egotistical and not logical. But you must have empathy and sympathy for others' situation. If someone in a given group has their personal space violated by somebody who's cloying or in the way or just in the way, yeah, that's not good either. But that doesn't mean necessarily that you're insulting them. That means you just got in their personal space and got in their bubble. Well, people have those. So just don't do that. Try not to do that. Apologize. Yeah, so soapbox. Yeah, Jesus never ran around like yelling at costumed people. In fact, some of the apostles dressed up in costume to escape from the Romans. So technically, costuming is biblical. So there. Yes, when John Patmos escaped from the prison, he went into costume. The angel helped him sneak out of there, put a costume on him, right? And took him out there and took him to the people so they could knock on the door and the lady let him in. Yeah, so that was an act. So hey, there's a costume right there. Somebody was in disguise so they could get away out of the prison. That's the Old Testament right there. Oh, New Testament. Revelations and raptures and stuff was hinted at in the other thing. I'm not going to go into a rant about that because that was kind of stupid. But yeah, that BioShock game looks kind of dumb. Yeah, I know everybody's going to go, no, you think I'm dumb because you said my game is dumb. It's not your game, first of all. It's something you watch, so it's not yours. You're not invested in it, just with time, and you like the characters. No, some elements of that game are stupid. Okay, there. Some elements of Resident Evil, the other game that I thought it was, are stupid. Really stupid. But that doesn't mean it offends the people that like that game series. It just means that parts of the game are stupid. So yeah. And also, the self-publisher guys, I don't necessarily agree with some of their politics either. Yeah, they're self-published now. But if you're good enough, I suppose, you don't need an editor, but you probably should have one. It's more of a guideline, not a rule, if you're that good. If you're not that good, then yeah, your stuff will be embarrassing. Get it out there. I'm sure they were trying not to be embarrassing, although I'm not going to say who it was. I don't know who it was, but one of the people in the audience asked whether they could publish his highly Asperger story. I have many of those, but this was somebody else that asked that. And if you're gonna go up to a publisher person and say, publish my highly obsessive Asperger story, that's probably the wrong way to market your story. Say don't tell them that. they'll figure it out when they read it, they edit it. That oh yeah, this guy, yeah, he's interesting. He's out there. But yeah, don't tell him. Just don't do that. I find that I've gone over the writing thing before. I don't need to do. Well, maybe I'll do a lecture on that later. But yeah, but suffice it to say that the not really professional. So yeah, but also the idea that some of the people that are asking these questions at writer conventions, that it is they don't want to learn how to write well. They want to be famous. That's different. If you're on the panel, I will say this when I have a panel one day. That's really your motivation out there. You want to be famous. You want to be known on YouTube or have a story and be popular, and be famous and popular, because you weren't in school. I know you weren't, because I wasn't either. and that's what it is. So what you got to do. The only way I was popular was with my clique. We had a Star Trek fan club thing going on. It got a little dirty at times. It became slash fiction, but mostly it was clean. Yeah. So and then it went on to college like that, and then some of it became very dirty. But yeah, we didn't publish more than 1 or 2 issues of that. Yeah. But yeah, you're not going to see that on the internet. I'm not putting that up there. But you can find. I'm sure they're buried somewhere on the Usenet forum somewhere. Find them. Let's see. Yes, there it is. So yeah, so yeah. Also, the other thing that stymies writers that they didn't address in the panel is that many of them don't really know how to do it. They really don't know how to do it. So going on and rambling about like how you knew InDesign, which is really old. Why are they still using InDesign? It's got to be like 10 years old. I guess some of them still use it. And some of those other programs, they're not going to know what you're talking about. Just tell them, okay, Microsoft Word processor, learn how to type. I know I hated hearing that from typing teachers, but no, learn how to type. Learn how to type well. Learn how to type not really looking at the keys, because it'll help tremendously. So you'll be able to put out your ideas and go faster than the keyboard can do your Microsoft Word, because they're just faster than the word processor, which is cool. Which is sometimes annoying. You'd be like, oh, you got an idea and it's coming out, and it's like, oh, come on. Click, click, click. It's not going. Yeah, so I don't know how fast my typing speed is, but it's faster than Microsoft. But oh yeah, these fan stories that are like going on a tangent about really boring minutia that no one else is going to be interested in you. Take that out. The authors, you don't need to do that. Just bring it into the story, put it in the dialogue. You don't need to go on for paragraphs on end about how the ship works, how the fuel works, what it looks like. Just a little bit, just enough to get you in there. Read a lot. Read voraciously. Read the greats and see how they did it. Tolkien tended to alliterate a lot. Arthur C. Clarke tended to be he wasn't as heady. Now some people say, well, my favorite is Isaac Asimov, but he published 7 books at a time. Actually, Isaac Asimov, one of the great sci-fi authors, is more of a science history author, I think. Because, yeah, his stuff is boring, pedantic, and it goes on forever. Yeah, especially Foundation. That's a really hard book to read. Don't use that as your template. Use a robot, iRobot or something else. Bicentennial Man. Something else that's Asimov. That's where it's a little bit more puts you in the story. Because he went off on a tangent. It was Asimov. It was Clark. Even what was the current guy? Alistair Reynolds. Yeah. Has a lot of description and stuff in there. That's kind of goes over your head. But his dialogue is pretty good. So. Alistair Reynolds. He's a current guy. Who else? Actually, Andy Weir. Why not? The guy who did The Martian. That guy can write dialogue. That thing is all dialogue. That's all he's doing is writing dialogue, and then the story writes itself. You're doing it right. The story writes itself. If you're like, oh wow, I could just imagine these guys talking like this, and read it aloud when you type it. That also helps. Of course, my editor on that is going to be like, oh, there's typos in. Fix that. Yes, I looked back at the Starship Locations game setup, first-person player thing, and it's like, wow, there are typos in here. Oh, yeah. Can't do that. Take those typos out. And yeah, don't steal covers from movies. Yeah, they were pointing out a thing about covers in movies and stuff. Talking about covers. Yeah, don't just borrow A New Hope. They were saying like every fantasy story has this either a hooded man or a hooded man with sword, or just yeah, that's what it is. Hooded man or a hooded man with sword. And yeah, I've even seen one where the hooded man was had a lightsaber, or his hood was glowing. Still a variation of the same thing, including a lot of the classics did that. Don't do that. Or if you're gonna do a hooded man, then make it really bizarre. You could do the hooded man with the sword, but put bunny ears on it. Make him an anthropomorphized rabbit, and then it would be like, okay, that's interesting. That cover is more. That's not just the cover of the hooded man. It's okay. What is Bunny Man actually doing? What is he gonna do? Probably if he was a bunny, he's probably gonna be very flamboyant and outgoing, and probably make love at the drop of a hat. Any hat, which is from Star Trek. It's from that really awful episode, Justice. Yeah. It's terrible. Or was it Haven? It was Haven, that's it. Was it? Yeah, it was. I think it was. Oh, wait a minute. Justice? It was Justice. Third episode. Next Gen. The one where Wesley steps on the grass and aliens threaten to kill him, like immediately execute him. I think Picard at that point would have said, well, actually, time to set the Prime Directive right. Very well, we may kill Wesley. No. Poor Wesley. Poor Will. No, Will, it's okay. It's joking. But yes, but yes. So there's my little. Yeah, there's almost nothing about the con. Yeah, it was interesting. There was not terribly a lot extra going on. I've ranted on for a long time. Well, yeah. And then I'm probably going to talk on the slideshow too. This is all the YouTube stuff anyway. So, yeah. Nothing weird or untoward happened. There were another T-Rex. Went. Fantastic Mr. Fox was there. One of the Job Club guys. It was a fox. Hilarious. Yes, we broke the fourth wall at one point. The fox guy showed up again, and he recognized me. We made eye contact. So, yes. So, I think I know who that is. I'm not going to say, but I think I know who that is. But, yeah, but, yeah, or maybe he just was somebody familiar in a fox outfit. Furry people. A friend of furries. Oh, yes, by the way. Friend of furries. I know how. This is a tail. I'm not really a furry, but see, I have the cat ears, so I got a tail, so I can make a anthro cat. Sort of a. Yeah, considering I was a gunsmith cat at one point. For Halloween, I will be an anthro cat for Halloween, and it'll be awesome because I actually have a real like anime, fanime, like actual authentic. Well, this isn't really fur; it's like plastic. Tail, and it'll look like a cat tail because it's modeled after an anime character. Also, curiously, the gunsmith cat from I think like 10 years ago was the gunsmith cat. It was a female from the show, and I didn't know it. And the little kid was like, one of the kid was like, there was a kid there, and he was like, "You're the girl. You can't be Brown Cat. She's a girl." You know. But the thing is, 2 years later, in Gunsmith Cat's generation, when they went to the school, and there was like a different group of them, because they like did a sort of a spin-off, like more edgy spin-off, you know. There was a brown cat that was a male, so I was ahead of the curve by 2 years. Brown cat. It goes with my hair. Yeah. So yeah. This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is the last day of Fanime Con Silicon Valley 2018. This is some Fanime Con swag. Fanime Con stash, fanfiction writing guide, Fanime program, the Red Turtle, the last Studio Ghibli movie. Ooh, cool. We have or at least the last. We have this artwork from the Permaids series. We have the ears and tail to the Halloween costume next year, and possible furry friend art thing. The Fanime later on. Yeah, so this is the haul. Such as it is. And there's a haul. It looks like Kitty likes the ears. Yeah. Kitty. So yeah, this is Fanime recap, and the crowd was not as socially awkward as you might think at a convention, at a con. The Big Wow one, they were a little bit not Big Wow anymore. It's called Comic-Con. We're a little more awkward. Last year's Fanime was more awkward. This one was less so. Probably because gamers tend to be a little more socially adept. Gamers tend to go into chat room games and things like that, and they just learn more about how to interact with people because they have in their fantasy world. If they have a game, they go in there and do that in a game. So they're more willing and able. So, I liked all the events. I liked day 2 the best, even though the panels yesterday were fun, and even though the today's one panel where they let me get out the panels that was on today. Probably not gonna. Okay. Fan fiction panel on writing fan fiction, and traveling to cons panel, which was kind of like the other ones that were about writing and about con stories, like good and bad stories, mainly bad. There were some socially awkward people. Including a writer last year. That was yesterday. Including a righteous lady that wondered why I was in a slash panel. She was there too. Oh. So, yeah, I don't have much recap stuff. I mean, I have lots of material here. I guess show it closer, I guess. Okay, this is, of course, got the cat tail and cat ears, which I showed earlier. This is something else, reminiscent of some of the sort of stuff from the Grateful Dead back in the day. That's probably why I liked it. I got a Grateful Dead giant shirt here. Dude, and this was Kiki, 96. That's some Kiki's drawing. She's she's not Japanese, but she writes and she creates things in the Japanese style. She's got maybe she's married to a Japanese guy. Her characters are mermaids and other fish animal anthropomorphized fish mammal things. Yes, a very cute animation website thing. Hopefully she gets a TV show out of it, because that would be awesome. I assumed it was going to be. Maybe not yet. I support local talent. Let's see. And she might not be all that local, but I think she is. Academy of Art, Berkeley, I think is what she was. Anyway, Berkeley. Yeah, that's nearby. I went to San Jose Art and San Jose State and Evergreen and San Jose Art. I did not stay in art directly. I went into, it was Evergreen and then State, and I went into humanities into writing portion. I went into creative writing and that kind of thing. But I've always had an affinity for art. Whole family draws, paints and stuff. And one of my journeyman carpenter sister also was a painter and sculptor and clay and mason and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, on my grandmother's side, on my dad's side, they were all creative and they all did musical instruments and that kind of thing. I sing, yeah, as you know. I do song parodies, slam poetry. It's not really rap; it's slam poetry. I declare and stuff like that, drama, stuff like that. Tim and I took Academy of Art stuff in high school, and we were failed child stars. So that's where that comes from. Mark's cards also. We did drama, doing dramas and stuff for years and years. So Tim and I went on and took my friend Tim and I, Big Tim and I took an art class, which we did pretty well in, and not so good in math. Yeah, I was just being an art student. Just I did like the early modern art stuff that was a big thing in the '90s, early '90s. Tim was extremely abstract, but just because his idea of making art is to be extremely abstract. That's all. There was a complainy artsy fartsy lady who was, I guess, trying to teach the students about snooty art people, but it didn't come off that way. It came off more like snooty art lady critiquing everybody, being bitchy. So back in the day, he didn't want to do that anymore as a vocation. And neither did I, but for different reasons. I do some character art and panel things and posters, mainly characters for book covers and things like that. Characters for my own science fiction stuff. I really don't have an artsy panelsy thing. This is a fan fiction writing guide that I keep holding up, but that's different. I've done fan fiction, / fiction, shipping, but I've done regular standard fan fiction too, as Starship Locations is the current one. Sort of a fan fiction of Star Trek. Yeah, but it's changed enough that it didn't. And I have also Studio Ghibli's Red Turtle. I haven't watched it yet. That I found at a dealer that had it's a video DVD. I found it at the guy that had the official stuff for Studio Ghibli there. It was the Studio Ghibli guy. He had other stuff too. And I really wanted to spend hundreds of dollars there, but I didn't have it, so I didn't really splurge, really. I mean, the tail and the ears is useful later for the next Fanime Con, and it's also useful for the Halloween costume. So, it was very practical items. And of course you had to have the swag. So, $60, $70 on that. I probably spent more than that on food, because I had to eat something. Area restaurants are okay, Subway and the new taco place and all that. Yeah, it's alright. Probably could have stood a little hot sauce on that thing. I probably should have put some on there. Um, but the backyard Cajun place is delicious. Anybody that comes out there to San Jose, go to that. The wait's not that long during the con, and you can get in and eat there. Uh, it's on Market Street, just past the other. So what I was saying about the art people is that, I try to promote the encourage the art people or any kind of art people, really, and story writing and that kind of thing as well. Um, yeah, like the word processing professor said years ago, learn to type. Learn how to actually type. It will help tremendously if you know how to word process. You do that when you're going to write a story. Um, now this art lady was with the fish cats. That's a really awesome idea. Just fish critter thing crossover. It's literally writes itself. You could make something out of that. Yeah, it's that kind of creative stuff that the snooty lady back in 1990 would have been like, oh, that doesn't make sense. No, yes, it totally does. It's awesome. It's like, yeah, she's appealing to both generations. Quirky, sort of creative-looking characters. I noticed that of the art gallery, I grabbed lots of screenshots from the art gallery, mainly of. I seem to like the stylized, like high concept manga paintings the most. The ones that look like a Marvel movie poster, or the ones that look like Disney, or the ones that look like a Sailor Moon, or the ones that look like Super Space Fortress Macross, or Gunbuster, or like maybe that new Academy show, or stuff that's very stylized but realistic looking, vaguely manga sort of characters in the American / Japanese style. I tend to like those, and I tend to draw those as pictures. So that's probably why I like that. I like that the style is similar to Robotech, but it's also similar to Sentinels and some of that other stuff. Similar to Gundam, yeah. Scaflone a little bit, not as high concept as Scaflone. That's very high concept. Star Blazers, Robotech. They are heavily influenced by the early works of the Macross and that kind of thing. But I try to make the eyes look less giant. They just look a little bit giant. So it ends up looking kind of like Hasbro does their stuff, and now Disney does their stuff. So it's a weird Hasbro, Marvel, Disney kind of crossover thing in there. And then the other one, I'm not sure if they're still there, but some version of them is. Yeah. So. Yeah, this convention really was. It was all right. It was cool. I enjoyed it. There was one Kal Kat show fan that was there, an older guy who thought my stuff was a little too long-winded. But he watches it, so subscribes to it. There was also, well, yeah, I like to talk. Anyway, so yeah, so it's an interesting, going to the Fanime stuff. I was introduced to the Fanime by the stories. Very early on, and that it was Fanime and Bacon. It's 2010 and 2011. They were going to go to Fanime, this weird convention thing. It was back when they allowed you to walk at least downstairs in the lobby without paying for the thing. They started saying you had to pay for the whole thing to even go into the proper building after around 2013 or so. Late 2014 that you had to get in. You could go up. You used to be able to go. You could go all the way up into the stroll area and stroll back and forth, up until 2015, late 2014, early 2015. You could go up there and walk around. They said no, we don't want to do that anymore. It's partly because of the line cons of 2012 and 2013. and of course the protesters that were out there like being insane. The 2013 one, but it was funny that the Jesus guy ran out there. But yes, I remember that. I was there when that happened. That was funny. Yeah. But yeah, that was 2013. So I could go back and look that up, but I don't think there's a video blog of that one. I'm not sure. I think it was mainly Bacon that I recorded that day. But yeah, I've been going to Fanime since at least 2012. I understand that I went to the 2012 one because Bacon kind of sucked. That's what it was. And Bacon, I went to both usually. Bacon moved in 2015 to the other location. I think that's when it moved, yeah. Because, last year it was already gone. Yeah, so it had to be 2015 that it moved. And then 2016. The last one they did was Women of Wonder. I think that was 2014, and that was before the Wonder Woman movie was even a thing. It would have gone over great like last year, but it's never gone already. David Weber was before that. He was the space combat guy. Some of his stuff was... Anyway, so he wasn't at this, but yeah, the con stories that I have are not too impressive. I remember there was one in which a guy insulted a girl that turned him down by saying something about suck his ass or something. To which I said, well, somebody's not getting laid tonight. Some said, way to go, a-hole. No, he's not getting laid. At all. The whole convention knows who that is. They're not going to let him get any. They're going to blacklist him. You're not getting anybody. Nobody's going to give you any play. And I was thinking about that, that idea earlier. It's like, I bet those young guys, and they are young guys their same age, that are Campus Crusade guys out there, complaining about costumes. And yeah, the people at the church coffee shop earlier were complaining about that same thing. So they were apparently there. Yeah, they were some of the protesters. That's pretty sad. But, well, yeah, as I mentioned at the church coffee shop long before this convention, like a week and a half before, it's like they're not evil for liking costuming. They're just doing dress up like a drama. You're reading way too much into that. It's not adultery or anything like that. To which somebody else that was a friend of hers commented, yeah, that's totally just drama. It's like, they're not, as long as they're not obsessed with it, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, it's like, some of them are though. Some of them are obsessed with it. But they would be obsessed with something else if they didn't have that. So it's just as well they have costuming as a thing for them to do, to keep themselves entertained. Mainly, they just want to be they want to be a little famous, so they dress up in a costume. They don't want to be ogled at. They want to be famous. There was a panel on that in 2013. That was the one where Mark's Cards and I went to a Fanime. Yeah, so we were there. Yeah, so there was a panel on sexuality and cosplay. See, a woman is empowered if she can wear a scanty costume as, say, Wonder Woman or Xena or something, and isn't ogled at, but rather she's empowered. She's like, hey, I'm dressed like this, and hey, now, I'll cut off your nuts with this sword. Arr. She's empowered. Whereas the ones that are like, ooh, dress up like that so I can see your boobs. Like, no, that's exploitative. Okay, the Zack Snyder movie that I use as Sucker Punch. Yeah, that's exploitative to have them imagine they're not being accosted. It's just stupid. Don't cosplay is not consent. Okay, anyway, but yeah. So I was thinking that some of those guys that were protesting, thou dost protest much, as Lady Macbeth would say, out down the spots. And what Jesus also implied in the woman committed adultery, thou shalt not cast the first stone. If you are without sin, cast the first stone. And none of them, they all left because they couldn't cast a stone at her because they were all guilty of something. So what it probably is some of these guys were rejected at a con, and ever since then they've been complaining about it. I bet if somebody went up there and said to one of those protester guys, and they weren't there today, they were there yesterday, and said, look, I bet that you were rejected about 3 or 4 years ago at a convention by some cat lady with big boobs. Probably looked at her. She probably said, fuck you, up yours, and, and ever since then you're like, oh, I have to destroy all the sinners. Like, no, you were a douchebag at a convention and you got caught. That's why. Come on, that's probably what happened. Or you were like repressed, or your family wouldn't let you go to the convention. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you couldn't even go at all because hyper religious family was like, no, thou shalt not dress up as a anime character. To reform you or something. Like, then you'll just end up being a closeted My Little Pony brony. And you should just do that instead of protesting. Or something. There's not as many bromies as there used to be. Became a pejorative, I guess. I think Mark Shikard still is, though. Because it's used that. Yes. I have a tail and ears that makes me a friend of a furry. Not a furry. Friend of furries, but not a furry. I think the fox person was somebody from the cast. Yes, the fantastic Mr. Fox was there. I haven't seen that movie cartoon, but I have seen Isle of Dogs, and there was at least one Isle of Dogs person there, which was cool. Somebody saw that movie. But yeah, there was at least one person dressed like the kid and the dog. So they were like together. That's cool. But yeah, somebody saw it. And somebody, fantastic Mr. Fox. Yeah, there was a lot of people were this academia show. Yeah, just kind of sort of Harry Potter but with math. Academia, of course. Sort of a Japanese girls' school. They do that whole thing. The Lolita thing. They're not talking about the porn Lolita. They're talking about lolly schoolgirl pop art. It's different. It's not supposed to be sexual. But of course, there is hentai, and there's Rule 34. Yeah, you probably don't want to see that. You cute little cat things, bunny things, and little hamster things going. Or maybe you do. I don't know what you're into. But so yeah. So this has just been So this is the recap of stuff that wasn't on this 42-minute fourth day thing, which is really long. But Cowpoke has a visual style that's, and also Creech Morong, same guy. Also has a visual style that very kinetic. I had him do the Robotech Transtech things because there's just a certain flair, certain je ne sais quoi about it, and it just does it on the fly, and the Artist Alley gets their little pictures in here. And although the Kal Kat Show blog is local and not really famous, it does get a lot of traffic. So, even though we don't have a lot of subscribers, but like and subscribe to the Kal Kat Show, it'll get bigger and bigger. And then that one, other thing isn't the first time that someone hasn't been famous. I mean, it could happen. Some of these people could hit the big time. The Winter Twins had started out with, so their book thing, they were at the book thing they published and self-published and did stuff. And now they know McCaffrey's son, and they have a book deal with an actual publisher, and they're actually semi-famous now, the Winter Twins. The Chalk Twins were a local thing, too. They're known as well. They have also become other twins. they become famous. Let's see. So it happens that some of these con people become famous. It's trippy. There's a couple of the pop bands, J-pop bands that come out there and do their yakuza. Yeah, those guys, they're yummy and whatever. They're famous. Yeah, they do the pop band stuff. That was a lot of fun because at one point one of the lesser ones went down on the floor and they were doing all kinds of stuff down there with all the con people. It wasn't the official group, but it was an unofficial group down there. And I jumped in and did some too. Taught them something they didn't know, which was the butt spin. They were doing all the other ones with that. That's old school stuff. They didn't know about that. Yeah. But yeah, they didn't know about that. The spin around thing. You just spin around. It's a sit and spin, basically. Yeah, there used to be a toy that did that. Yeah, and it was a common break-in two thing back in the day. Yes, and yeah, so that's what this whole thing kind of is. It's a big commercial for the Kal Kat show. Big infomercial. And yeah, they are a little long, but hey, why not? I'm not being paid to do these. I do it for fun. Like that lady said about her artwork, she does it for fun. People come in and say, "What's your angle? What's your pitch for your show?" She said, "She doesn't really have one." How about she just talks to the guy that did Black Sad? Whatever happened to him? No, actually, he'd be too dark. She should talk to some of the Disney guys, see what they say, and then talk to the Nickelodeon guys, see what they say. It might be a good Nickelodeon show. I would watch it. Sort of like a SpongeBob crossed with, like, Thundercats or something. SpongeBob crossed with Finding Nemo crossed with a little bit of maybe Johnny Test thrown in there. A little bit of Fairly Odd Parents maybe. But it also has sort of a Steven Universe vibe going on too, a little bit. Eyes and stuff. So it's a little bit like that too. Steven Universe, I haven't really seen much of it. I saw like 3 episodes. But it already goes there anyway with the whole Slash thing. It already is its own Slash. So. Well, I figure why not? Which would beg the question whether it would be artsy Slash of my stuff, and would I actually like write it under a pseudonym? Oh yeah. If it's really fluidly well written and the character development matches the characters, it's probably some Slash that I wrote of my own stuff. We'll see. It's like, is it canon that those 2 captain guys in that ship actually had a gay interlude? Well, yes, it is. Oh my! And those other 2 female ones, yes, especially the cat chick. She's totally bi. She totally would do that. She would, at the drop of a hat, pretty much. It's kind of in the show. And in the furry verse of the Starcrackers Prospectors, there's a pairing between a male otter and a female sort of, or it's a female otter and a raccoon guy. So, yeah, they got together, but that was straight. But it was animal anthropomorphized straight. Although the captain is clearly gay. And unlike in Star Trek Discovery, from what I've heard, and unlike in many of these other shows that have the gay couple, but then they have to decide, oh no, one of them has to go, like tragically. Like, no, they don't. They just end up not getting together because he's gay, or she's gay. In the story, if I wrote a story like that, the characters doing the whatever, they just either don't end up together or they end up happily together. It doesn't matter. Because it's 2018. It doesn't matter. Oh no, the protesters will be all freaked out. How could you make a character that might be gay? That's saying Jesus didn't say anything about the gay. He didn't. Go read the New Testament. He didn't mention it. One of his apostles did. Oh, thou shalt not be married or burn. But what he meant was burn with lust. Well, what that one apostle was saying wasn't about being gay. It was that he was lustful and he didn't want to Yeah, he was horny. So he's like, I don't want to be horny. So what he was saying. So yeah, that's not the same thing. He wasn't lusting after dudes. He was just horny, which is silly. It's like you're gonna be horny anyway. Anybody tells you, oh, he's addicted to porn. He's addicted to the internet or whatever. Oh no, it's like no, he's not. He's a guy. He's just a guy. Of course, there's certain unhealthy things. I'm not recommending you do that. No, don't do that. And there's plenty of girls that are into that too. It's not just guys. I mean, oh yes, and incidentally, speaking of beefcake, of hilarity, apparently that picture that was shown in one of the art things, I think it was day one in one of the art gallery, and there was a picture of an anime character from Voltron. It turns out it was Deathlock from Voltron, and not Deathlock. It was the guy from Voltron. It was the bad guy, the drool commander dude from Voltron, the effeminate, froofy one, who even in the Japanese is effeminate. He's supposed to be froofy. They did that a lot in 80s anime. They would have a main villain character who was very even in later 90s Escaflowne and Star Blazers and Robotech both had effeminate supervillain bad guys. Well, yeah, the guy from Voltron and Chiron from Robotech, yeah, and the dude from Deathlock from Star Blazers, definitely. Battleship Yamato, definitely. All these guys were kind of effeminate, but they were like dudes, and they were the villain. So it's not good that they were the villain. They were vilifying them, but it is funny that they decided that's a proper menacing bad guys to make him sort of, oh yes, wild star, or whatever. Well, in Voltron's case, it would be, oh yes, Eric, yes. I want you. It was yes, it turns out he really, really wanted to get Voltron and send him robeasts. It's overcompensating. Turned out, I saw that lady with the picture again, and I said, "This the guy from Volt." I thought it was Star Blazers, but she said, "No, a lot of them are like that." Yeah, Star Blazers. So it wasn't Star Blazers; it was Voltron. I said, "Oh, that's the dude from Voltron." Oh yeah, he was totally. Yeah, it was. Yeah, he was totally. He was. It's canon. that picture is canon. There's probably a scene that was cut from the show, in which he showed up on a video screen, half naked with his shirt off, and he's like, "Oh, excuse me, Commander, I was in the shower. But do you like what you see?" Be like, "Oh my God." Oh, you blue-skinned male compatriot. Okay, he's got blue skin. Yeah, you get past the sensors that way. Oops. Blue-skinned and well-oiled, I'd say. Oh my! These things, I've not read that yet. I have lots of business cards from artists, but the Kal Kat show, it's not altogether. Yeah, it's not altogether out there, but some of it is. So you might watch this video and see some of those artists' names pop up on that video screen. I'm going to check that artist out. Next thing you know, that artist is going to be famous. Not because of the Kal Kat show, but because of word of mouth. Somebody posted it somewhere. This looks cool, like that. Next thing you know, somebody shows up at Fanime who actually is in the know and says, "Hey, what's your pitch? What's your angle? I like this work. How would you like to work for studio? Doing a new anime show." Yeah. And then you'd be like, "Oh, really?" And then you'd be hired. So that'd be awesome. So, maybe I should have been a pitch man. I don't know. But yeah, you don't need to necessarily struggle with the big leagues if you don't want to. That's what I would say at the panel. It's like, okay, well, all this other stuff is really hard to do for some of these people who are like social people. So you don't do it that way. You get people that are in your same circle to do that, to help you out. Yeah, don't just shop around randomly looking for self-publishing sites necessarily, because a lot of them are going to rip you off. Don't do that. Do your research well and get your friends to help you out and stuff. But I don't recommend necessarily family members reading your shit, because they might hate it. I really don't. They're going to critique it too much. They're with cat ears. No, you were at the panel. It'd be funny if that one lady showed up there at the church. You were in the hentai panel. Actually, it was a slash fiction panel. The hentai panel was later. It was just slash fiction. They didn't really discuss anything. They didn't show anything. They just talked about Kirk and Spock and Xena and Callista, mainly. And it's like, so. Ew. It's like I was kind of quoting the lady from the last one. It was the same lady that was doing the panel. What, Xena and Callista married? I thought they were too. I thought that show was really homoerotic. It's like, oh my gosh, are they girlfriends? Are they married? I just assumed they were. It's just like, you know what I also assumed? I also assumed that Bashir and Garrick probably did it at least once, just to see what it would be like. And totally Quark and Odo. Oh yes, totally. So Deep Space Nine, there was some kinky stuff going on, and not just evil Kira with Dax. She experimented. It happened. It's headcanon. Not just it's evil Kira. So they were doing the anime thing. Evil villain has to be effeminate. What's funny about Escaflowne, though, is the evil villain guy who was supposed to be a dude turned out to be a chick in the last episode. Which is interesting. He was actually, the main villain was actually a, transgendered being. And, he had changed her. She had changed herself into a man to appear more masculine to fight the Escaflowne robot thing. But actually, in the end, she revealed that she was, in fact, a chick the whole time. So technically, she was a girl. Unless you see the American version in which they kind of skirted past that and didn't show it. This is like, why? Now it doesn't make sense. Now it made it worse. It made it more like she's a transgendered cross that had received sex change. But no, he didn't. He was actually a girl the whole time. He was the king's daughter who was pretending to be a man, basically. Yeah, so that's what was going on. Now, in the case of Destlar, he was totally banging Voltron. Oh my, he was a man. Oh my. Psst, yeah. Psst. So Fanime doesn't turn anybody into a weirdo. They probably are already halfway there. No. Oh, yes. And next year is the 25th anniversary of Fanime. Next year, Kal Kat will be there. Possibly Mark's cards. Possibly our first panel. Yeah. It's going to happen. It could happen. It could happen. That would be awesome. And it would be awesome if the frickin' fire drill goes brap, brap. Oh. Oh. I don't know what the fuck. Somebody pulled me. Somebody's a douche. Douche. Take a douche. Actually, there was nobody really totally offensive at all. Really, there was nobody this time that was acting stupid. I rambled at one point about songs, the millennials not getting it, but I stopped as he walked away. but it was nothing. It was nothing douchey. But yeah, so and Star Lord there, he looked kind of drunk, and yeah, that I was not at all doing anything. They probably thought I was. Anyway, so yeah, and apparently the hemp people have made a book compilation series 1 and 2 of the Legend of Cannabis 1 and 2. I did not buy that. I have issue 1 of the Legend of Cannabis. Mr. Hemp or whatever it is. Yeah, I didn't really do anything with it. It's somewhere. I think I might have given it to Dan. Anyway, that's. But yeah, yeah, Fanime and Bacon. Fanime and San Jose Comic Con, Silicon Valley. Yay! And any other convention that might come around. Maybe there will be some actual Discovery people. There was like no Orville people at this one. No Discovery people really either. There might have been one Discovery person. I think it was the Morlon or something. That was kind of cool. There was a Cardassian. She was annoyed that there weren't any Star Trek people. Cardassian, in pretty good makeup. She's all, why aren't there any Star Trek people here? Her husband, could be husband. He was a Borg, kind of, but he wasn't really a Borg though. I don't think he was just a cyborg thing, and she was a Cardassian. Yeah, I think he wasn't the Borg. He was just some other anime similar thing. Yeah. I didn't know a lot of the shows, clearly. I mean, you totally have to watch this show about the... Yeah, there's too many shows to watch. Attack on Titan guy. Anyway, so, yeah. I've got it written down somewhere. Anyways, yeah, there was a Cowboy Bebop, and that's old school. There was some interesting and odd characters. Yeah, and a lot of the ones with the hair, and that was a specific kind of character. And the whole cast was there at the end. The cast from the anime artsy thing. They all came downstairs and took a big group shot. Anyways, and Cowpoke did the Grease ending where it shoots up into the sky. Yeah, sure, he flew away, right? Anime. So this portion of the thing will not be recap thing will not be that long. At the end of the I'll leave in stuff that was interesting. At the end of that won't be on there. End of everything on the train. There was, before the train stopped, there was a homeless crazy woman who was going on about someone was a bitch and slut, and it was trying to accost her, but there was no one there, which was funny. There was no one there. Don't know who she was talking to or what. Not talking to a Bluetooth or a cell phone. She was just insane. Yeah. And then there was a man sleeping on the train, a homeless man, literally sleeping on the train. Well, yeah, so there were a lot of people around downtown area like that. So there's issues like that. They're building some new apartments, but I doubt they're going to occupy them over there in St. James Park. Anyway, yeah, back to the con. I just thought to throw that in there. Yeah, the mentally ill are not properly cared for in the city as much as they should be. So, yeah, back to the... and they're probably addicted too. They probably have addictions and other issues